we've actually this series, which was great. My husband had an art exhibition in the Saatchi Gallery in London, and we shared that on the show, and that was amazing. And that probably helped. That was amazing. And now we are about to launch next year Hearty swimwear. I'm using all his graphics and his original acrylic, paint the prints from the original artwork onto swimwear.
Oh wow.
I've been developing that for 18 months. People are just seeing it now, but they're like, oh my God, that's so cool, you're doing that. Oh God, was that easy? And I'm like, are you kidding? That's taken me 18 months. I've sourced recycled plastic bottles that we've turned into fabric to put on swimwear. So this is really a sustainable brand. It's, eco-luxe, but it's taken a long time, a lot of hard work. So I'm excited by that. And like you, I'm thinking I've had to reinvent myself because I maybe don't have the clients that I used to. So have to create my own brands.
Well, that is a rite of housewives passage as well. It's you find the brands like, Lisa, I mean, it's, and some do great and some don't. So do you have a name for it? And when is it coming out? It's coming out now.
It's called Hearty Swim. It's launching in March next year. And we've done all the creative, and it really is, it's wearable art. It's, the art I've taken from my husband's paintings, put it onto swimsuits. And we really worked really hard at the demographic because we had, Tallia and Tessie, and looking at what, a beach babe would want to wear, a surfer girl, or a mum who's over 50. And, I've really had fun. And I've got an old friend of mine, actually, who used to be the director of Calvin Klein lingerie and swimwear for the whole of Europe, who's a Glaswegian.
Wow.
He's been with it. And, I've loved doing it. I've really loved, preparing the brand and understanding, and also understanding what women want in terms of sizing. We go right up to 18-20, from a 6 to 18-20. And, I think the sustainability part is a big part of our ethos. Our mission statement is to, people need to buy less. It's not cheap. I'm not going to apologize for that, because when you're producing a luxury good and you want to make it completely sustainable, it's not cheap. But people need to get out of the idea of buying so much. They need to buy less, but buy better. And so my idea with this is not to do kind of seasonals, is to do actually series. So you're never going to date. So, a lot of luxury brands, oh my God, that's last season. And then 2 seasons later, you're like, oh, that's too old. Whereas we're not going to we're going to do series. So I think that we all have to change these consumer habits so that we change and we help the environment. And so I did a lot of homework around that, and did a lot of research. So I think, but you know what, you never know. You never know until you launch the brand. But certainly we shared some shots recently here, actually, of all the samples, and we've had lots of
our first sneak preview, no?
Our first sneak preview, yeah. And Tallia and Tessie both have a lot of celebrities, UK celebrities and influencers saying, please send us a product. So you know what, fingers crossed. You never know. You just have to keep hustling.
Send one to Lisa Rinna.
I'm going to. Oh yes, absolutely. I'll send one to them all.
Well, speaking of luxury brands, and all of your fashion games are so on point. I was on a podcast recently and I got asked this question. I'm like, oh man, this is such a good question. I'm going to steal it. If you could only wear one brand for the rest of your lives, what brand would each of you wear? I see all your posts. You all have great fashion games. And then I'll give you my comments. But what brand would it be?
I would say Zara.
Zara, yes.
Really?
Yeah, because I think it's kind of, they do copies of every brand.
And they do it so well.
Yeah, so well. So if I was only able to wear one brand, it'd be Zara, because I'd always be looking like the trendiest and have the coolest things that other brands are doing, but from Zara.
That's a really brilliant question. I mean, I love vintage shops, and I have a lot of clothes from my mother, who's, in heaven now, but I really love collecting old and vintage things. So I would, there's a fantastic shop in the King's Road in London. It's a vintage fashion shop, and I just love going in there because you find these incredible pieces. And so for me, it would be, if rather than a particular brand, I would say I would just shop vintage.
No,
but that's not the question. That's cheating. She's cheating.
If I were, well, do you know what? I would probably go high street. I would probably go Marks and Spencer's. Actually,
does he even know what Marks and Spencer's is?
Do you know what Marks and Spencer's is?
No, but I was just pretending to.
Okay, right. So Marks and Spencer's is our like staple, legendary
Walmart.
kind of, you know, it's kind of your high
It's
street
like a
brand.
Walmart.
Been around for
Walmart.
No,
It's a
it's
Walmart.
above
Target.
Walmart.
It's a Target.
I'm sorry, you're wrong. It's above.
Well, then
It's
what
above
is
that.
it?
It's a kind of middle class brand, but they actually they work with great cashmere companies. They, you know, they understand their marketplace. Their demographic goes from, you know, 7 right up to 75. So a lot of the clothes in there can be a bit staid and a bit old, but because their demographic is so wide, I think that they produce really well. And I think they use nice textiles. So, and it's all about styling. I keep saying this to people, you know, this is high street. And yes, I wear some luxury goods. But a lot of, I would say probably 70% of my wardrobe is kind of young designer brands that I like to give a step up to and support, you know, people actually creative. So I think, yeah, M&S, we call it M&S. M&S. Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm going to be so basic and I'm going to say Fashion Nova. That's such an American thing and it's not really big here in the UK yet. But like, I'm telling you, every single photo on my Instagram over the last week here is all Fashion Nova. And everyone's like, wow, where are these gowns from? You look $1 million. And I'm like, people need to understand it's literally not about the money. Like, this is like, I'm like, right now, this is like, what, a $20 dress, and I'm like, oh, feeling James
It's
Bond.
how you wear it. It's how you wear it, how you style it.
I'm the same way. Like I describe my style as like high end, low end. Like I love Zara. It fits so well and it's so, but then I'm going to have to say, I tried on your Louis Vuitton coat. I mean, I know it's a woman's coat, but I've bought Louis Vuitton women's coat. I love my Louis. I love LV. I mean, you're all being very humble. I see all the Balenciaga and LV and Dior. So I have like fashion envy when I look at your Instagrams, but that LV coat is everything.
You know what? That was actually, believe it or not, my husband goes from one extreme to the other. So because he's an artist and he's a creative and he's always in his studio working to all hours, whatever, he's like, I don't understand why you girls, you want all this fashion stuff, whatever. And we were in London actually with Tessie and she took him out for lunch just before Christmas, and you know, 2 bottles of wine and 2 cigars later, and he comes back to the room and he went, I saw this coat and I just felt I would never have bought that coat, David, because I just would never have spent that much on myself. And he bought it for me, and actually it was just the nicest thing in the world because
So
I would never have bought that, you know. But I'm getting a lot of wear out here, I tell you. I am loving it.
I was going to buy a different coat that was really the same amount of money. And I was like, you know what? They don't have my size. And they called around and they didn't have it. I mean, especially when you have to try to fit a woman's size to me. And like, this is just a sign that I don't need this coat at this point in my life. Right. Yeah. I'm a bag person though. I mean, I'll wear Zara all day, but then when it comes to like bags, like bags and watches, it's like crack to me. I just can't say no. It's a sick addiction. So
it's a bit of an addiction, but again, I can't emphasize enough. If you go around, there's so many vintage shops in London that you find amazing pieces, particularly with Chanel and you know, old YSL, and these bags, they last a lifetime. And I keep saying to my girls, you know,
they do.
If you invest in something, you have to look after it. You have to pass it on to your children. My mum passed on her handbags to me.
And it all comes around.
Yeah.
I mean, they brought the saddlebag out again. And my mum had a saddlebag in her closet from like when
20 years ago.
Yeah, 20 years ago.